Before pulling off a scheme that gained her close to $40,000 from various GoFundMe donations, Madison Russo was a student at St. Ambrose University who maintained a GPA over 3.6 and even had an internship for the John Deere company. But before we get ahead of ourselves here, let's take it back to the start of her scamming journey. Maddie had been a lifelong resident of Eldridge, Iowa, where in February of 2020, only a few months before her 18th birthday in April, claimed that she had tested positive for type 1 diabetes alongside her brother Tyler, emphasizing the fact that she couldn't produce insulin in the pancreas.
Their brother Tyler turned 18 years old. He was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which is a chronic autoimmune disease where the pancreas no longer produces insulin on its own. With this being said, I was also tested to see if I would develop type 1 diabetes and see if I was positive for any of the antibodies. So when the test came back, I ended up being positive for all 5 out of 5 antibodies. And in February of 2020, I was also diagnosed with type 1 at 17 years old.
Almost a year later, on May 30th, 2021, Madison graduated from North Scott High School and was on the road to St. Ambrose University.
Madison Russo.
For some of us, life comes quickly right after high school. But unfortunately for Maddie, a few months later in December would feel something a little different about herself, and in late 2022 would be interviewed by her hometown's newspaper, the North Scott Press, where she had stated she'd been feeling just a little bit off, and recalled having sporadic fevers with some bloody stools and random nosebleeds. And on Thursday, February 10th, 2022, Maddie Russo received some terrible news while she was sitting in her accounting class.
Fast forward to February of 2022, I had yearly lab work done just with my primary care provider as a standard checkup. And aside from starting to feel just a little bit off, my lab work came back and my white blood cell counts were not in normal range. So further testing was then done. And on February 10th of 2022, quite possibly the worst day of my life occurred. I got the call from my oncologist and they found a mass on my pancreas, and I had stage 2 pancreatic cancer at just 19 years old. So please take my experience and get regular lab work done, because the sooner you catch anything that is wrong, the better chance of outcome and survival you would have.
4 days later, on Valentine's Day, Maddie began her battle with the first of 15 rounds of oral chemotherapy, along with 90 rounds of radiation. She would further add to the North Scott. They gave me a slim 11% survival rate for 5 years before this latest tumor was discovered. 11% at 19 years old? I don't know if I will live to see the day I graduate from college, get married, or become a mom. In the meantime, I will fight. Madison would post to social media discussing her journey through the tragic world of cancer, even going as far as explaining her reactions on and off chemotherapy.
After my chemo was, after my week of chemo is done, after, round 3 is done, and I get, a break until the next round of chemo, but sometimes it's hard to think like that when you're in so much pain and discomfort and everything is just going the wrong way. And I just have different mixed emotions, and with my hair and stuff like that, that's obviously a big fear. Obviously, as a girl, hair is a big part of everybody's lives, but to think of the potential of losing it, or it's just kind of one more thing in the fire that is hard. So
at one point, she even promoted a product that helped her with her non-losing hair.
You can go to welllabs.com, or I'm sure it's on Amazon. But I've been taking these. I've noticed a huge difference with my hair too. So that's been another really great product I think that's helping.
Everything she did led to the creation of Madison Russo's GoFundMe page, where it read, on February 10th, 2022, Maddie Russo found out she has pancreatic cancer and has been going to battle ever since to win this war. Maddie is currently undergoing vigorous chemotherapy and radiation treatments that make her very sick. But just like the Maddie we all know, she never gives up and is a fighter. As one can imagine, the diagnosis has been very hard on Maddie's family. Just like with any cancer diagnosis, the cost of medical bills, gas, meals, and expenses can be a burden, and that is something this family should not have to worry about. While most of her videos appeared as if she were reading off of a script.
With this being said, I was also tested to see if I would develop type 1 diabetes, and
Maddie was able to rack up a donation of $37,803 and even shared pictures of her battle that eventually gained her negative attention.
19-year-old Madison Russo remains out on bond tonight, accused of faking a cancer diagnosis.
Maddie Russo was invited to speak at St. Ambrose University, but yesterday she was arrested, reportedly at the school, and bonded out yesterday. She claims she was diagnosed with stage 2 pancreatic cancer, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and told there was a football-sized tumor wrapped around her spine. A GoFundMe fundraiser was started titled Maddie's Fight Against Pancreatic Cancer. By Tuesday, the GoFundMe page was taken down. GoFundMe releasing a statement Tuesday saying they have a zero-tolerance policy for misuse of our platform, and the group is guaranteeing a full refund to donors. Russo used other social media platforms like Facebook to get the message out about her supposed fight. On Monday, January 23rd, the Eldridge Police Department arrested Russo for theft by means of deception, which is a Class C felony.
Authorities say Russo's subpoenaed medical records show she's never been diagnosed with any kind of cancer or tumor. In a press release saying witnesses with medical experience pointed out the many medical discrepancies, including terrible, life-threatening inaccuracies of her medical equipment placement on her body.
You can see that the actual positioning of the port per se is not accurate. Also, that the way that it's secured, the type of tape that's used, is not the same clinical tape that we would use in the hospital.
Madison's long-awaited sentencing would be live-streamed on the 20th of October 2023, in which it would be confirmed that not only was she reading off of a script, she used other people's cancer survival stories to pawn them off as her own.
I didn't do this for money or greed. I didn't do this for attention. I did this in an attempt to try and get my family back together. I come from an extremely broken and separated family ever since I was 2 years old. I was always told that, quote, I was the only one that could fix it, and I have tried for years. Nothing was working, and I kept pulling for everybody to be a normal, functioning, loving, supportive family. I thought if I said what I said, it would make everybody pull together.
I am firmly convinced here today that it would not be remotely just to defer judgment in this case and allow you to proceed further in life without the consequence of this criminal conviction for theft on your record. You engaged in a continuing criminal scheme that lasted for a year that requires more serious punishment of that, and that will serve as a deterrent to both you and others similarly situated. Pursuant to the defendant's plea of guilty to the crime of theft in the first degree in violation of Iowa Code Section 714.11, 2, or 3, and 702.91, and pursuant to Section 902.3 and 902.9 of the Code, it is the judgment and sentence of the court that you be committed to the custody of the Iowa Department of Corrections for an indeterminate term of incarceration not to exceed 10 years. However, for good cause shown, the sentence just announced is suspended, and the defendant is placed on probation with the 7th Judicial District Department of Corrections for a period of 3 years.
The judge's suspended sentence of Madison would not only displease the public, it displayed how someone's fraudulent actions can reward you with just a slap on the wrist. As a pancreatic cancer patient who donated to her, this sentence is appalling. She lied to the court. This was for greed, not her family. To cause people to hesitate to help is the reason she should be in jail. The cynicism she's created deserves punishment. Judge/prosecution, you failed. The lesson here is that if you want to run a scam, move to Iowa, and if you are caught, there is no real penalty. The judge and prosecutor are weak. Millions of people around the world have died of cancer, and this vile human being who faked having cancer gets a suspended sentence. Ridiculous.